Hey everyone, good to see you. If you live in California or Florida like I do, this new report should have your full attention because both of these states just landed at the very top of a brand new list of the riskiest housing markets in the nation. Not a list you want to be on. Now, what exactly does risky mean with this? Well, it doesn't mean everyone's home is going to lose value tomorrow, but it does mean the combination of high costs, natural disasters, and shaky local economies are putting a lot of pressure on homeowners and buyers. So today, let's break down what this report says, why it matters if you're in one of these three states, and what you should do to stay ahead of the curve. Now, this is coming from ATTOM's second quarter housing risk report, and it's making waves around. Now, you may be wondering, well, Alex, what is ATTOM? Well, they're one of the leading real estate data firms in the country. They collect, analyze huge amount of property data, everything from deeds and mortgages to foreclosures to neighborhood demographics. Think of them as the people who crunch the numbers behind the housing market and then hand us insights we don't always see in the headlines. And according to their latest report, of the 50 highest risking housing markets in the entire US, 14 are right here in California. 7 are in Florida, 5 are in New Jersey, and 4 are in Louisiana. Now, the riskiest of them all is Charlotte County, Florida. That is Punta Gorda, sitting right there on the golf course. So how did ATTOM figure out who's at risk here? Well, they look at 4 big things. You have affordability compared to local economy, or income rather, and how many mortgages are seriously underwater, foreclosure rates, and last but not least, county unemployment levels. Think of this as stress tests for housing. If too many people are spending half their paycheck on their mortgage and there are already foreclosures and jobs are unstable, well, that market could tumble fast if the economy slows down. And here's the part that really hits it home. Nationally, the average home buyer is spending 34% of their income on housing. Now, that's above the 30% line that experts call quote unquote affordable. But in almost 1 out of 5 counties across the country, people would need to spend half of their annual income just to buy and maintain a typical home. Friends, half of their entire income. Let that sit in for a minute. And some counties are way beyond even that. Marin County, right here in California, 120% of income. Santa Cruz, California, 116%. Maui, Hawaii, 112%. Brooklyn, New York, 109%. That's absolutely insane. And that's not sustainable, and it's not even possible without the help of multiple incomes, family money, or in some cases, just taking on crushing debt. And if you're watching this in California, you probably don't need a statistic to tell you that affordability is absolutely brutal. But these numbers show us how far out of reach housing has become in certain areas. Now let's talk about pricing. Now, the median home price nationwide hit a record $432,700 this June. We had a video talking about that. That's an all-time high. And here's the catch. Transactions are slowing down dramatically. And that's just because buyers simply can't afford to play the game at these prices. Now, Ron Barber, who's ATTOM's CEO, said this: there's uncertainty about how long prices can keep going and what will happen with the broader economy. And that's the big question here. Even if you own a home right now, is your equity as solid as you think? Because friends, equity can disappear quickly if local demand dries up or if natural disaster makes certain areas uninsurable. Now, let's bring this back to California and Florida. Now, in California, we've seen it all over the news, over the course of the last handful of years. Wildfires have devastated entire communities over the course of the last handful of years. Insurance companies are pulling out of some areas or hiking rates up so high that families simply cannot renew. And that adds hundreds, sometimes thousands to the monthly cost of ownership. Now, it's not just the mortgage anymore. No, it hasn't been, not in a while. It's survival against fires, smoke, and rebuilding costs. In Florida, the story is hurricanes and insurance premiums. Some homeowners are seeing double, if not triple, insurance rates. In fact, in parts of Florida, it's not the mortgage that is pushing people out, it's the insurance bill. The combination of high natural disasters risk plus unaffordable premiums is what lands both of these states on top of this very unfavorable list. Now, let's talk about underwater mortgages, because that's when you owe more on your home than what it's worth. Now, naturally, just 2.7% of properties are in this category, which is thankfully relatively low. But there are pockets where, friends, it's much worse. Louisiana, for example, has 7 parishes where more than 10% of the homes are seriously underwater. Now, the top 5 are Rapides Parish, Calcouchot Parish, Cato Parish, and Tangipahoa Parish, and East Baton Rouge Parish. Now, in Rapides alone, 17% of the homes are underwater. So what does this matter? Because when homeowners feel stuck with negative equity, foreclosures have a tendency to rise, and that drags down the entire local housing market. Now, in this report, it wasn't all bad news. The report also ranked the safest housing markets in the county. At the very top, Erie County, New York. That's Buffalo, my old stomping ground, or near where I grew up. Among the 50 least risky counties, people there spend less than 30% of their income on housing. Other examples include Chautauqua County in New York, just 18%, Potter County, Texas, about 20%, Madison County in Alabama, 26%, Umstead County in Minnesota, 28%. Now, these are places where housing is not only affordable, but also more stable because buyers aren't stretched so thin. So what does this all mean? Well, first, this isn't a crash prediction. It's more of a warning sign. It's saying, look, if you live in California or Florida or other high-risk counties, you need to factor in more than just the price per square foot. You need to ask this. Well, first off, can I afford the insurance long-term? How stable is my job market? What happens if a wildfire or a hurricane makes my home unlivable? And if I'm buying at peak, how quickly could my equity disappear? Now, for sellers, it's about understanding what buyers are looking for at all of these risks. Homes might still sell, but not at the breakneck speed that we've seen in past years. Now, for buyers, well, it's about not stretching so far that you become house poor. Because if you're spending 50, 60, 70% of your income on a house, one financial hiccup can put you in a real world of trouble here. For me, living in California, this report really hits close to home. I've seen neighbors deal with wildfire evacuations. I've watched insurance premium skyrocket in areas where people thought were safe. And I've heard stories of families who simply had to walk away from their homes because they couldn't afford to protect anymore. So here's my advice to you, friends. Look, stay informed. Don't just look at the mortgage, look at the total cost of ownership. Be realistic about your job stability and emergency savings. And if you're buying right now in California or Florida, go in with wide eyes open, eyes in the back of your head. Be aware of your surroundings. This report isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to give you a heads up so you can make smart decisions in one of the most important financial moves of your life. And just so you know, I'm a licensed real estate agent right here in California. So if you ever want to talk through your options that you have, whether it's buying, selling, or just getting a better read on the market, I'm here to help. Now, I want to hear from you. What's happening in your local market? Are you seeing affordability challenges, higher insurance premiums, or slower sales? Drop a comment down below. I read every one of them. And if you found this breakdown helpful, give it a big old like, hit the subscribe button so we get to see each other more often, and share it with somebody who needs to know what's really happening in the housing market. Friends, that's going to be it for me here today. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.